Welcome back, everyone. So I think it was on my last video I put that or said something about having to do a honeydew. If you don't know, my wife, she does cross stitch and she's got a couple of them on YouTube. The channel's Realm Crafts. But anyways, she's been doing these cross stitch things for a while and she's wanting a new stand. Okay. She found one in the UK. I told her go ahead and buy it. Well, it was $250 or something, plus $50 shipping. I don't remember exactly how much. But she didn't want to spend the money. So she went and found some plans and asked me if I could build it. Sure, if you got prints, I can build it. That's no problem. I just have to buy some more tools. Should have bought the one online. It's taken me a while and probably a whole lot more money than buying the stand. So I'll sort of show you what I've had to purchase to do this. Maybe a couple little pointers here and there, because I'm not a woodworker by no means. I've had to spend a lot of extra money where I've screwed up, but well, I guess you probably want to see the finished product first before all the stuff I had to buy to go do this. So I'll show you this whole stand. She found these prints somewhere online. I'll try to get that information and throw it in the description. But I made some changes, did some things a little bit different than what the drawings were, and I think it turned out pretty good. She likes it. I did choose to make it out of maple. I think the original drawing or prints was oak. So it has a couple wing nuts on this leg and on that one over there where you can adjust the height. This here is movable for putting your pattern on. And this here is adjustable for different size rods for different size patterns with just a couple wing nuts on the back side. I still have to build the little accessory tray that goes on here, but I guess that'll be the rest of this weekend project. Now, something that I did have to learn how to do was to cut these slots. I made the mistake of thinking that, okay, I can just buy a router with a plunge base, plunge through and just rip through it and be done. It doesn't really work that way. Sort of show you what I did and how I come up with trying to do it after screwing up. So here was mistake number one that I made, and I learned from it. I went and screwed this 2x4 to the sawhorses because I don't have a big fancy workbench, so I've made one out of some sawhorses. And then I clamped my board to the sawhorses. This plunge base has a flat edge on it, and I thought, well, I could just take and set that thing against that 2x4, have this space where I need to, and I can just plunge right down and cut that slot across. That is crooked, and it did not work really well. So after figuring out that that plunge base wasn't going to work, I went and bought this adjustable base to see if I could make it work. So I put the fixed base back on the router and attach this to it. Now, as far as that base goes, it comes with this, I guess, sort of like a guide. That way you can use it to center it up on your router. Now, after putting the correct size bit in that you're wanting to cut as far as the slot, I would take this and adjust this over and measure on both sides of the bit to get it centered. And I learned to use a scrap piece of wood to make my adjustments. I'd end up having the bit to where it was just protruding past this base. Then I'd clamp my piece of wood down and I would make one pass from where I wanted to start my slot all the way down to where I wanted to stop. Once I got to where I wanted to stop, since I already had some scrap wood because somebody messed up, I'd take a piece of scrap wood and clamp it at the end of where I wanted to end my cut. And then as far as the beginning of it, when you got towards the end of the board, I would just run it back up to, protrude the bit out just a little bit more. And I'd have it to where it just touched where I wanted to start my slot. And I would pick up on the router just a little bit, turn it on, let it get up to speed, and then slowly come down into it and then work my way across all the way to my stop again. Small cuts, many of them, you get a whole lot better job. This is one of the boards for holding the dowel rods. And they're supposed to be slotted here, which I never got to that because somebody tried drilling that 3/4 inch hole with a hand drill. And you might be able to see that my holes are off in that back one. They don't line up correct. So I had to buy a drill press. Well, I guess I didn't have to, but it was just something that bothered me. Now, this is just the cheapest drill press that you can buy at Harbor Freight. I wanted a bigger one. Of course, with that 3/4 inch bit, you need to run it at the slowest speed. And a trick I found to keep from, well, let's see if I can find one. Anyways, to keep it from splintering out on the wood, more scrap wood. Always set it down on there and drill through into that wood, and that will help reduce some of that splittering out on the backside. So that's a little trick that I found on that. Oh, one more thing about the router that I sort of cheated on, and OSHA will probably be super mad at me, but I did anyways. So as far as these arms that support the dowel rods, you're supposed to cut a slot in these here, and there's supposed to be a hole there. That way it'll clamp down on them rods and hold that rod still. I was trying to think of the best way to do this, and like I said, OSHA probably not going to approve what I was doing. I knew how far I needed to go from the end of my bit to the edge of the piece of wood. So I put a stop on here. And probably don't need to do this, but this is how I did it. I'd hold on to it, and I'd turn it on, and I would set my board against this edge, and I would just slowly feed it across. And then I'd turn it around and do the same thing on the other side. And I'd stop it, and I would drop the base down just a little bit more and keep doing that over and over and over again until I got all the way through. And then there's one more thing I did. So this was the next thing I ended up doing with the router. I put the original base plate back on, put this 1/8 inch roundover bit back in it, and I used the router this way to round all the edges on the wood. For like the little small pieces, I was able to just take them up here and just cut them out. I did not have to go buy the table for the router. And it's worked out really well. And even the big pieces, I was able to just take them and just run them right on down through. Worked great. This will just make it to where I can do more things, since I built up that little bit of confidence in myself of being able to do this. You know, who knows what else I'm going to be able to build. I don't think I'm going for furniture, like fancy furniture. I'll stick with simple stuff. But there's some other projects that I've been wanting to do and just kept putting them off over the years. And once you get that little bit of confidence of doing something, then you're able to keep going farther and farther. It's just sort of like with these videos where I started and very nervous, and now it doesn't bother me so much to make a video. You know, we'll just keep going with it. So I'm gonna let her have her stand back so that she can continue doing cross stitch, and I'm gonna clean up my mess. So you guys have a good one. Thanks for watching.